Most gardeners are fighting a war in their backyard right now, and they're losing. Tiny insects covering tomato stems, sticky leaves shining under morning sunlight, white clouds of flying bugs exploding from plants every time you touch them, ants crawling everywhere, mealybugs hiding like white cotton underneath leaves, and entire gardens slowly weakening while homeowners keep spending more money trying to stop the damage. That matters more than people realize, because many gardeners don't just feel frustrated anymore. They feel exhausted. Sprays stop working. Pests return days later. Plants keep struggling. And garden centers continue selling expensive chemical solutions that often create even bigger problems long term. But here's what most people don't realize. Nature already created powerful pest control systems long before chemical pesticides ever existed. And experienced gardeners quietly use certain plants to naturally repel, confuse, or even help eliminate destructive insects from the garden ecosystem itself. That changes everything, because suddenly, you stop fighting nature and start working with it. Now here's where things get interesting. Most beginner gardeners think pest control means killing everything, but experienced growers understand something completely different. Healthy gardens are ecosystems, not sterile environments. That's the hidden secret. Because the goal isn't eliminating all insects. The goal is restoring balance. And honestly, that matters now more than ever. Chemical resistance is increasing. Pollinator populations are struggling. Summers are becoming hotter. And millions of homeowners want safer, more natural ways to protect their gardens without drenching everything in chemicals constantly. That's why companion planting and natural pest control plants are exploding in popularity again. Because once these systems mature, some gardens almost begin protecting themselves. Now, before we continue, there's something extremely important you need to understand. No plant creates magical instant pest immunity. That's one of the biggest internet gardening myths right now. But certain plants absolutely help disrupt pest behavior, attract beneficial insects, confuse feeding patterns, and reduce infestation pressure naturally. And when combined correctly, the results can become surprisingly powerful. Today I'm showing you 7 incredible plants that help fight aphids, mealybugs, ants, whiteflies, and other destructive garden pests naturally. Some repel insects with strong fragrance. Some attract predator insects that hunt pests aggressively. Some confuse pests visually, and one plant later on this list has been called one of the greatest natural aphid traps ever used in home gardens. But there's a catch. Placement matters. Airflow matters. Biodiversity matters. And most gardeners unknowingly make one huge mistake that actually attracts even more pests into the garden. We'll talk about that later. Now, before we dive in, tell me in the comments, what garden pest are you fighting right now? Aphids, spider mites, whiteflies, mealybugs? Because honestly, almost every experienced gardener has lost plants to pest pressure at some point. And if you love natural gardening, low-toxicity growing methods, and backyard systems that actually become easier over time, subscribe right now because the next few minutes may completely change how you think about pest control forever. Now let's begin with one of the most powerful natural pest control flowers ever grown in home gardens. A plant so effective, many insects absolutely hate being near it. Number 7, marigolds. Now, most people think marigolds are simply cheerful, decorative flowers. Bright orange blooms glowing under hot summer sunlight. Golden yellow petals moving softly in warm evening wind. Compact flowers brightening vegetable beds while butterflies drift slowly nearby. And honestly, few flowers make gardens feel more alive than marigolds. But here's the hidden truth most beginner gardeners never realize. Marigolds are not just ornamental flowers. They're strategic plants. That changes everything. Because experienced gardeners have quietly planted marigolds around vegetables for generations for one simple reason. Many destructive pests dislike their strong scent, especially certain soil pests and soft-bodied insects. Now here's the problem this plant solves. Aphids, whiteflies, mosquito-heavy garden corners, nematode pressure in some soils. And honestly, Many gardeners unknowingly create pest magnets by planting huge blocks of vegetables with zero biodiversity. That's dangerous, because monoculture gardens become easy targets for insects. But marigolds help interrupt that pattern. Now here's the bonus value. Marigolds attract pollinators and beneficial insects too. That's enormously important, because healthy predator insect populations help control aphids and other soft-bodied pests naturally over time. Ladybugs, hoverflies, parasitic wasps. Experienced gardeners understand something most people learn too late. The goal is not a dead garden. The goal is a balanced garden. Now here's the expert tip most gardeners miss completely. Marigolds work best when scattered throughout the garden instead of planted in one isolated corner. That's the secret. Strategic placement creates better pest confusion and biodiversity across the entire growing space. Now, here's where things become fascinating. Certain marigold roots release compounds into the soil that may help suppress some harmful nematodes naturally. That's one reason experienced vegetable gardeners plant them repeatedly near tomatoes and peppers. And honestly, most homeowners never realize flowers can influence underground garden biology too. Now imagine this. Warm summer sunlight glowing across raised beds. Bright orange marigolds moving softly beside tomato plants. Bees drifting lazily through the flowers while fewer pests gather across the garden. That doesn't just feel beautiful. It feels balanced. And honestly, we're just getting started. Because the next plant on this list may be one of the most misunderstood pest control herbs ever grown. And many homeowners already grow it without realizing how powerful it can become in the garden ecosystem. Number 6, basil. Now this is where many gardeners become shocked. Because most people grow basil for cooking. Fresh leaves beside tomatoes, rich herbal fragrance drifting through warm summer air. Soft green foliage glowing beside raised beds during sunset. And honestly, very few herbs make a garden smell more alive than basil. But here's what most people don't realize. Basil quietly becomes one of the most useful companion plants in an entire vegetable garden. That changes everything. Because experienced gardeners are not only growing food anymore, they're building protective ecosystems. Now here's the problem basil helps solve. Whiteflies, mosquitoes, aphids, and even certain pest pressure around tomatoes and peppers, especially during hot, humid summers when insect populations explode. Now obviously, basil alone will not magically eliminate every pest overnight. But that's not the real goal. The real goal is disruption, confusion, balance. And honestly, that matters more than people realize, because many pests locate plants partly through scent and environmental signals. Strong aromatic herbs like basil help interrupt that process naturally. Now here's the bonus value. Basil attracts pollinators too, tiny flowers drawing bees and beneficial insects directly into the garden ecosystem. That's incredibly important, because predator insects help suppress soft-bodied pests continuously over time. Experienced gardeners understand something beginners often miss. The healthiest gardens are full of life, not empty from overspraying chemicals constantly. Now here's the expert tip most gardeners learn too late. Never let basil become weak and overcrowded. Dense, humid growth creates poor airflow, and poor airflow invites fungal problems in stressed plants. Experienced growers pinch basil regularly to encourage bushier growth and stronger fragrance production. That small habit changes everything. Now here's where things get interesting. Many gardeners accidentally create pest disasters by planting vegetables too tightly together. Heat builds up. Humidity rises, air stops moving properly, and suddenly aphids and whiteflies explode across the garden. But basil helps improve biodiversity while naturally spacing and diversifying the environment visually and aromatically. That matters enormously. Now imagine this. Warm evening sunlight drifting across tomato cages. Fresh basil fragrance filling the air after watering. Bees moving softly through tiny white flowers while healthy green leaves glow beneath the summer heat. That doesn't just feel productive, it feels alive. And honestly, The next plant on this list may surprise people even more. Because many homeowners think this herb only belongs in kitchens, when experienced gardeners quietly use it as one of the smartest natural pest control plants in the entire backyard. Number 5, mint. Now, before we continue, there's one extremely important warning here. Mint spreads aggressively, and I mean aggressively. Most gardeners learn this too late. That's why experienced growers almost always keep mint contained in pots or controlled areas instead of planting it freely into open beds. That changes everything, because unmanaged mint can quickly take over huge sections of a garden. But when controlled properly, mint becomes incredibly powerful. Soft green leaves moving in cool evening wind. Strong, refreshing fragrance rising every time the leaves are touched. Dense, low-growing foliage filling containers beside patios and vegetable beds. And honestly, few herbs create this much sensory impact naturally. Now, here's the hidden truth most beginner gardeners never realize. Many pests strongly dislike intense aromatic oils, and mint produces extremely powerful fragrance compounds. That's one reason experienced gardeners often place mint strategically near seating areas, doors, patios, and vulnerable crops. Now here's the problem mint helps solve. Ant activity, mosquito-heavy areas, certain aphid pressure, and some whitefly activity around sensitive plants, especially during hot, stagnant summer weather. Now here's the bonus value. Mint becomes one of the easiest herbs for beginners to grow successfully. That's important, because frustrated gardeners often lose confidence after repeated plant failures. But mint survives surprisingly well under many conditions once established, and success builds momentum. Now, here's the expert tip most homeowners completely overlook. Mint fragrance becomes strongest when plants stay healthy and actively growing. Regular harvesting actually improves production. That's the secret. Experienced gardeners trim mint constantly, which creates bushier growth, stronger aroma, and healthier plants long-term. Now here's where things become fascinating. Strong-smelling herbs like mint can help mask vulnerable vegetable scents from certain pests. That doesn't mean insects disappear completely, but it can reduce easy targeting patterns inside the garden ecosystem. That subtle biological confusion matters enormously over time. Now here's another hidden advantage. Mint flowers attract pollinators too, and pollinators often bring predator insects into the environment naturally. That's why experienced gardeners rarely think about pest control as one single action. They think in systems. Fragrance, predators, biodiversity, airflow, plant health, everything connects together. Now imagine this. Warm evening air drifting across your patio, fresh mint fragrance rising after watering, soft green leaves glowing under golden sunset light, while bees move gently through tiny purple flowers nearby, and fewer mosquitoes ruining your outdoor evenings. That doesn't just feel practical, it feels peaceful. And honestly, we haven't even reached the most powerful natural aphid control plants yet. Because the next flower on this list may be one of the greatest beneficial insect magnets ever grown in a home garden. And most homeowners completely underestimate how important that really is. Number 4, nasturtiums. Now this flower may be one of the smartest trap plants ever used in home gardens. And honestly, most people grow it for beauty without realizing what it's actually doing behind the scenes. Bright orange, yellow, and deep red blooms spilling softly over raised beds and containers. Round, lily pad-like leaves glowing under warm summer sunlight. Trailing vines cascading gently across garden edges while bees and butterflies drift constantly through the flowers. And honestly, few companion plants make a vegetable garden feel this alive. That matters more than people realize. Because many homeowners assume pest control must look aggressive. Sprays, chemicals, constant treatments. But experienced gardeners often solve problems much more quietly. And nasturtiums are a perfect example. Now here's the hidden truth most beginner gardeners never hear. Aphids absolutely love nasturtiums. That sounds bad at first, but this is where things get fascinating. Experienced gardeners intentionally use nasturtiums as sacrificial trap plants. That changes everything. Because instead of aphids attacking valuable vegetables immediately, they often gather heavily on nasturtiums first. That buys time. And in many gardens, it concentrates pests into one manageable location instead of spreading them everywhere. Now here's the problem this plant solves. Aphid explosions across peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, and tender vegetables, especially during warm, humid periods when populations multiply aggressively. But nasturtiums help redirect that pressure naturally. And, honestly, most gardeners completely misunderstand the power of trap planting. Now here's the bonus value. Nasturtiums are edible too. Peppery flowers, tender leaves, beautiful salad garnish. That means this plant creates multiple layers of value inside the garden ecosystem. Beauty, pollinator support, pest management, edible harvests. Experienced gardeners love multifunctional plants. Now here's the expert tip most homeowners miss. Do not panic immediately if aphids gather on your nasturtiums. That's often exactly what you want, because concentrated aphid populations attract ladybugs and beneficial predators naturally. That's the hidden strategy. Now here's where things become truly interesting. Many beginner gardeners accidentally destroy beneficial insect cycles by spraying chemicals too quickly. And honestly, that creates long-term instability, because once predator insects disappear, pest populations often rebound even harder later. Experienced gardeners understand something most people learn too late. Balanced ecosystems become stronger over time. Now here's another hidden advantage. Nasturtiums tolerate surprisingly poor soil. In fact, over-fertilizing often creates huge leafy growth with fewer flowers. That surprises many beginners. But slightly leaner soil conditions usually produce healthier flowering behavior. That matters enormously for low-maintenance gardeners. Now imagine this. Golden sunlight glowing across raised beds. Bright nasturtium flowers spilling softly over wooden edges. Ladybugs moving slowly across leaves while butterflies drift lazily nearby. And healthy vegetables growing beside them with less pest pressure than before. That doesn't just feel beautiful. It feels intelligent. And honestly, the next plant on this list may completely change how you think about pest control forever. Because this next herb doesn't just repel certain insects. It helps attract one of the most important predator insects in the entire garden ecosystem. Number 3, dill. Now most people see dill as a simple kitchen herb. Soft, feathery leaves moving gently in warm wind. Tall, delicate stems glowing under evening sunlight. Bright yellow, umbrella-shaped flowers floating above vegetable beds like tiny fireworks. And honestly, few herbs bring this much movement and softness into a garden. But here's the hidden truth most beginner gardeners never realize. Dill is a predator magnet. That changes everything, because experienced gardeners understand something critical. The fastest way to fight aphids naturally is often by attracting the insects that hunt them, and dill does exactly that. Now here's the problem this plant solves. Explosive aphid populations. Whiteflies. Soft-bodied pests multiplying across tender vegetables, especially during warm, stagnant weather when predator populations remain too low. But dill helps reverse that imbalance naturally. Now here's the bonus value. Dill flowers attract hoverflies aggressively, and hoverfly larvae are absolute aphid killers. Most homeowners never even notice them working, but experienced gardeners know. Those tiny predators quietly consume enormous numbers of pests. That's the hidden ecosystem most people never see. Now here's the expert tip. Most gardeners miss completely. Allow some dill plants to flower fully instead of harvesting everything early. That's the secret. The flowers are what attract beneficial insects most aggressively. Experienced growers often intentionally leave flowering dill scattered throughout the garden ecosystem. That small decision changes everything. Now here's where things get fascinating. Many beneficial predator insects need tiny, accessible flowers for nectar while hunting pests nearby. And dill provides exactly that structure. That's one reason biodiversity matters so much. Gardens filled with only vegetables often struggle to support strong predator populations naturally. But mixed ecosystems become far more stable over time. Now here's another hidden advantage. Dill reseeds itself surprisingly easily in many climates, which means once established, it often quietly returns year after year with very little effort. Experienced gardeners love plants that become easier over time instead of harder. Now imagine this: warm evening air moving softly through raised beds, tall dill flowers glowing gold under sunset light, hoverflies drifting quietly above tomatoes while healthy vegetables stretch through the garden without heavy pest pressure. That doesn't just feel productive, it feels balanced. And honestly, we're getting closer to the most powerful natural pest control plants on this list, because the next flower may be one of the greatest, almost impossible to kill companion plants ever grown in a backyard garden. Number 2, chrysanthemums. Now this may be one of the most misunderstood flowers in home gardening, because most homeowners only think about chrysanthemums during fall decoration season. Potted mums beside porches, bright yellow and orange flowers near pumpkins. Seasonal color for a few weeks, then forgotten completely. But experienced gardeners understand something very different. Certain chrysanthemums contain natural compounds that insects absolutely hate. That changes everything. Soft layered blooms glowing under warm autumn sunlight. Dense green foliage forming compact mounds beneath flowers. Golden petals moving gently in cool evening wind, while pollinators drift quietly nearby. And honestly, very few flowers create this much color while also helping protect the garden ecosystem. That matters more than people realize. Because homeowners are tired of choosing between beauty and practicality. They want both. And chrysanthemums quietly offer both at the same time. Now here's the hidden truth most beginner gardeners never hear. Pyrethrin's natural compounds found in certain chrysanthemum varieties became the foundation for many natural insect control products. That's the secret. And while living chrysanthemums are not magical instant pest eliminators, they absolutely contribute to a healthier companion planting system. Now here's the problem this plant helps solve: whiteflies, certain aphid pressure, mosquito-heavy corners, and some soft-bodied pest activity around sensitive vegetables and flowers, especially when combined with strong biodiversity and healthy airflow. Now here's the bonus value. Chrysanthemums extend garden beauty later into the season when many flowers already begin fading. That emotional impact matters enormously, because many homeowners emotionally disconnect from their gardens once summer ends. But mums keep color alive deeper into fall. Warm, golden flowers glowing beneath soft autumn sunlight, cool evening air moving through flower beds, and pollinators still visiting blooms while much of the garden begins slowing down. That doesn't just feel decorative, it feels comforting. Now here's the expert tip most gardeners learn too late. Avoid constantly overwatering chrysanthemums. Dense, wet foliage creates weak airflow and stressed plants. Experienced gardeners space mums properly and allow airflow between plants to reduce disease pressure naturally. That small adjustment changes everything. Now here's where things become fascinating. Many homeowners unknowingly create pest explosions by over-fertilizing plants heavily. Soft, overfed growth becomes irresistible to aphids and whiteflies. That's one of the biggest hidden mistakes in home gardening. But experienced growers focus on balanced, steady growth instead of explosive, weak growth. Healthy plants naturally resist stress better, and stressed plants attract pests faster. That connection matters enormously. Now here's another hidden advantage. Chrysanthemums attract pollinators during critical seasonal transitions when food sources begin disappearing. That helps support broader biodiversity inside the garden ecosystem long-term. Experienced gardeners think beyond single seasons. That's the difference. Now imagine this: cool autumn sunlight glowing across golden chrysanthemum flowers, soft wind drifting through the garden while bees move slowly between blooms, healthy vegetables nearby carrying less pest pressure as the season slowly changes. That doesn't just feel beautiful, it feels stable. And honestly, the number one plant on this list may completely transform how you think about natural pest control forever. Because this final plant has quietly protected gardens for generations, survives brutal conditions surprisingly well, and may be one of the strongest smelling natural pest control herbs ever grown. Number 1. Lavender. Now honestly, few plants create this much emotional impact in a garden. Soft purple flower spikes glowing under golden evening sunlight, silver-green foliage moving gently in warm summer wind, rich calming fragrance drifting slowly across patios while bees hum quietly through the flowers. And somehow, the entire garden instantly feels calmer. That matters more than people realize, because the best gardens don't simply solve problems. They create peace, and lavender does exactly that. But here's the hidden truth. Most beginner gardeners never realize. Many destructive pests strongly dislike powerful aromatic oils, and lavender produces some of the strongest natural fragrance compounds in an entire ornamental garden. That changes everything. Because experienced gardeners often use lavender strategically near pathways, seating areas, vegetables, and outdoor living spaces to help reduce pest pressure naturally. Now, here's the problem lavender helps solve. Mosquito-heavy evenings, certain moth and whitefly pressure, aphid activity around vulnerable plants. And honestly, many homeowners unknowingly create stagnant, humid gardens that pests absolutely love. But lavender prefers the opposite. Sunday dry airflow, excellent drainage. That growing style naturally supports healthier garden conditions overall. Now, here's the bonus value. Lavender becomes one of the greatest pollinator magnets in home gardening. Bees absolutely cover mature lavender during peak bloom season. And healthy pollinator ecosystems often support stronger predator insect populations too. That's the hidden balance most people never think about. Now here's the expert tip. Most gardeners learn too late. Lavender dies more often from overwatering than underwatering. That surprises many beginners. Experienced growers understand lavender evolved for dry Mediterranean-style conditions. Poor drainage kills it fast. That's why sandy soil and airflow matter enormously. Now here's where things become fascinating. Strong-smelling herbs like lavender can help create sensory confusion for certain pests searching for vulnerable crops nearby. Again, this is not magic, but layered biodiversity changes insect behavior patterns naturally over time. That's the secret experienced gardeners quietly understand. Now here's another hidden advantage. Lavender becomes increasingly beautiful as it matures. Larger flower displays, stronger fragrance, more pollinator activity, and less maintenance once established correctly. Experienced gardeners love plants that become easier over time instead of harder. Now imagine this, golden sunset light drifting softly across your backyard. Lavender flowers glowing purple beside raised beds. Warm evening air carrying calming fragrance across the patio while bees hum gently through the garden. And fewer mosquitoes ruining your outdoor evenings. That doesn't just feel practical, it feels restorative. And honestly, that's the deeper lesson behind every plant on this list. Experienced gardeners are not simply fighting pests. They're building balanced ecosystems. Healthier plants, healthier soil, more biodiversity, more pollinators, less stress, less spraying, and gardens that slowly begin protecting themselves naturally over time.